What's going on? Nick Piles, publisher of 1851franchise.com and CEO of The Growth Club, where at The Growth Club, we help you find and identify the right franchise to align to your missions and values to hopefully lead you on a pathway to buying your first franchise. So today I want to talk about the 5 real reasons franchisees fail. And of course, you're coming to the table wanting to win, clearly. You don't buy a franchise saying, what is my pathway to failing, or what is my pathway to losing? So in order to give you the tools to get to the definition of winning, let's look at the opposite side on why do franchisees fail? Now, I've been doing this for a very long time, 20 years, coming up on 20 years. And I can tell you it's fairly simple on why franchisees fail. Number one is the expectations. And this is not necessarily just the franchise buyer's responsibility. It isn't. It's the franchisor's. And so when you're talking to a brand and you're saying, well, what does success look like? You're looking at things like item 19, which if you don't know what that is, it's part of the education process. Again, reach out to Growth Club. We're happy to help explain how franchising works, the educational side. But if the expectations are misaligned, if you come in thinking you're going to make $1 million and you make $500,000, you're going to be frustrated. And that flustered part of buying a franchise could cause you not to have the right energy to turn it around and continue to grow. You might look at the indicators the incorrect way. Now, if you thought you were going to make $1 million, but you also didn't understand how much time it was going to take you to get to that $1 million, that's going to create misalignment and expectations. So number one is expectations. And that's why asking questions, performing the proper due diligence when buying a business is so essential to getting out of the gates the right way. Number two, and I probably should have put this as number one, is capital. Unfortunately, in the buying process, you as a franchise buyer, you come to the table and you say, this is how much cash I have. Franchisors don't necessarily, not all of them, do a very good job of disqualifying you as a franchise buyer based on a lack of capital. My rule of thumb, if you've watched any of my other videos, it's the rule of 3. Have enough money to buy one, have enough money to scale, have enough money for a rainy day. And so if you don't have that capital for that brand, can you find other forms of capital and grit and hustle? Of course you can. Sometimes that hustle is worth more than cash. But on the capital side, the reason, and it's partly expectations too, the reason it causes a franchisee to fail is you sign a franchise agreement today, and your business, whether it's 30 days from now, or it's 9 months from now, or it's 2 years from now, it's going to take time before you open this. So now you wrote a big check, you reserved your territory, you're going to go through the process of now opening. And so cash is going to continue to bleed. And so if you're not well capitalized or haven't created a good transitional plan for how are you going to transition from job, career into business ownership, then that capital could be very detrimental to your success, because you're also going to need capital at likely 3 other key points. One is at your opening. One is if there's any slip in customer acquisition for like a food brand, it could be at the 90-day mark. And then you're going to need just enough fuel to keep handling natural attrition of customers. So capital is number 2. Number 3 is kiss and shake. Kissing babies and shaking hands. The reality is you as the franchise owner, you've purchased the right to use this business in your local community, but that's not the magic to making money. Very few businesses can you turn on the lights and automatically start selling things. And so are you willing to get out in that community and build relationships? Do you have relationships in the community? Will your neighbors be excited to support you when you open? It's a very important thing, but I'll tell you, like, from a capital standpoint, it's another form of capital, and for a reason franchisees fail, when I say, well, what are you doing in the community? They're like, not much. That equals sales, and sales obviously equals success. No scale causes franchisees to fail. I'll say this over and over and over again. It's very hard to become wealthy off of owning one franchise. To own one restaurant, you're going to be working a lot of energy into that business for a return that's going to take a long time to climb. And so the scale mindset has to be right. And it goes back to expectations that, in my opinion, looking at investments that have a 3-year payback on initial investment, so that and a quick break even, like at what point does the cash stop bleeding? it all kind of starts folding together. So expectations, capital, kiss and shaking, no scale are all kind of in the same category of why franchisees fail. So is your cup half full or is your cup half empty? And the last one that I'll share on this video is marketing. I'll never forget this. I was at a conference and they had top 3 franchisees on stage. Number 1 and 2 had always been somewhere around the top. They were regulars at the top. Number 3 came from the middle of the pack and moved all the way up from middle of the pack franchisee to number 3. They said, well, how did you do it? And he said, I spent 10% of every dollar on marketing. Franchisee next to me elbowed me in the side. He's like, that guy's an idiot. I'm like, that guy's on stage. What are you talking about? He's actually a genius. But the marketing mindset is a tough one because not every dime that you spend on marketing, Facebook ads, Google ads, retargeting, newspaper, radio, whatever, creates an immediate direct response or purchase. And therefore you could go spend, $1,000 on Google ads today and say, I got nothing out of it. Well, in all these areas, it's still pay per click and it still drove someone to your website. They may have not converted yet, but you're filling up your funnel. And that's a hard thing. And I said, mindset, it's a hard thing to have that mindset because the marketing engine might help you get over that edge and go from middle of the pack to number 1 if you have the right viewpoint on how much should I be spending on marketing. So expectations, capital, kiss and shake, scaling mindset, and marketing. Like you really want to look in the mirror and say, how do I feel on each of these categories? That response that you have in your own mirror might give you the answers to whether you are set up to win at franchising or are you looking at it and saying, how can I not lose? The same play to win ends up being so critical to those that are franchisee of the year, the celebrated franchisees, and the ones that the franchisor are just banging their head against the wall. Like you've invested your life savings into this business. Why are you not doing this? So I'll add one more. I said I wasn't going to, but communication, like finding the pathway to how you're going to communicate with your franchisor and leverage all of the assets they have in your own franchisee community to say, many of you have done this before. How can I leverage what you've done to have success too? But let's not fail at franchising. Let's go win.